Hey, what's up? I realize now that I've had the Crazy About Compost website for a year now, and I've never done a video on how to compost. I think this will go really good with my brand new compost tumbler, the EnviroCycle Mini. I got it to try it out, and I have a lot of stuff to put in it. So I think this is a good time to show you exactly how this works, and why composting is really that easy, and why you should be doing it. So let's take a look at the different categories of waste that you're going to put in to get some really good compost. First we have our browns, which is going to be shredded leaves, shredded cardboard, shredded up paper, tissues, paper towels, and then stuff that I don't have here such as straw or sawdust, which is also good stuff. Notice I shredded all this stuff up. The main reason for this is because the more shredded up the material is, the easier it is for it to break down, and the faster it breaks down. So let's go over to the greens now. This one isn't going to be as easy to recognize what's in it, but this was a lot of food scraps. This was a mixture of all different kinds of fruits and vegetables, and again I chopped them up, and ahead of time I added shredded leaves and a little bit of shredded paper to just make this kind of compost stew. So between these two types, you'll see obviously that I have a lot more of the browns than I do of the greens. And this is because we have the 3-to-1 ratio, and this is the most key part of all of composting, I would say. Is because if you put in too much of your food scraps and you don't have any browns to go with it, the process just won't work nearly as fast. It's going to smell really bad, and it's going to turn you off, and you're not going to want to compost anymore. So my rule of thumb is to always add a lot more browns than you do of your greens. So again, the ratio is about 3 times as much browns. So let's fill it up. I'm going to put in some browns first. And again, I'm more into overdoing it than not putting in enough. So I'm going to really put in a good portion of browns here. So let's start with that much. Notice I used some of the box too. Now it's time to add the sludge. Yum. Alright. So just by looking at it, it's probably 50-50 right now, so I'm going to add some more browns. But again, the name of the game is just to really overwhelm your food scraps with your browns, and you'll see that you get much better compost. It's not going to smell, and it's going to break down quicker. And for fun, one last element I'm going to add as an aside, kind of more of a nerdy composting thing, is dog food. The reason being is one of the main ingredients of dog food is a bone meal or a blood meal. And apparently this is a really good compost activator. And so I'm going to add a nice portion of that and see if I get any extreme temperatures as a result. But either way, hopefully this is making sense to you. Like I said, you don't really want to get too scientific with the whole thing, but as long as you remember that you're really overwhelming your browns in comparison to your greens, you'll be in good shape. Now we'll just give it a couple tumbles. And this thing is really easy to tumble, that's for sure. I mean, it's really small, it's got big grips on it. But anyway, so now you can see it's already starting to get mixed up pretty good here. I'm going to give it some more spins. Alright. I mean, that's really all there is to it. We're just adding 2 different types of materials, put them in the right ratio, and everything's good. So let's talk about what we don't want to add to the pile. First and foremost, we want to keep out all the meat and dairy products. Main reason for this is that it attracts a lot of pests, it smells pretty bad, and it takes a lot longer to break down. So this is the kind of stuff you want to keep out of your compost. If it doesn't fall into that category though, it's fair game. So all your other food scraps, your fruits and vegetables, throw it in. Other than that, pet waste is another good one that comes up a lot. You definitely want to keep that out. There's a lot of pet waste that actually carries harmful bacteria that can harm humans. So if you're going to do something with that, definitely keep it isolated. Don't put it in your compost. Also, weeds. If you cut weeds and then chuck them directly in there, they're just going to grow again inside the compost, and eventually they might cause some problems, and it'll just keep on growing in your compost as time goes on. So unless you're getting a really smoking hot pile that'll kill these weeds, which chances are in a background or a backyard composting project you're not going to get, I recommend really keeping the weeds out of there the best you can. And last but not least, I would say charcoal and coal ash in general. That stuff is basically purely carbon, but it takes a bazillion years to break down. So that's something that really is just going to take up space in the pile, and it's not going to really go anywhere. So I also recommend avoiding that. And of course, any recyclables, so plastics, glass, and aluminum, those are not compostable, so please keep them out. So I guess to wrap it up, the three main factors we're looking at with composting, other than the carbon to nitrogen ratio, would be aeration. And with something like a tumbler, it's got some air vents on the side, so that's a good thing to keep the oxygen circulating. You want to be able to turn over your compost a lot and move the outside to the inside, and just move it around as much as you can. That really helps to keep cold spots from forming and just keeps the circulation good. And then last with that would be moisture. They always say a wrung out sponge is the ideal moisture. Really for this, in a tumbler anyway, you don't have to worry. You definitely don't have to add water to it at any point. It definitely retains moisture pretty well, so that's not really a concern. As for an outdoor composting project where it's a compost bin, so to speak, you probably just want to spray down some water on it in between layers when you're adding them. But other than that, you shouldn't really have to add much. So hopefully that sounded easy. There's really not that much to it. If you have any questions about this stuff, make sure you get in touch with me at crazyaboutcompost.com. And thanks for watching. So again, composting's really easy. It's a lot of fun, and I highly suggest you do it. And again, if you have questions, get in touch. All right, thanks a lot.